Alright, the beta is over. There are several points I'd like to address about it. This game is in no way too fast or COD-like. The people who say this don't know what they're talking about. People have been slandering literally every Battlefield game, starting with Bad Company, as COD-like. I really think it simply denotes having more fluid animations and less awkward weapon handling. I think that's literally it. If those are improved in any way, the game will be called a COD clone. It's not a serious criticism. The player in Battlefield 6 is slower than any other Battlefield game while they have their weapon out. And even if you have your knife out, you're still not the fastest. I think you're only the 4th fastest. That's the only data point I really need here. Somehow, via field of view distortion and animation improvements, people have convinced themselves the slowest Battlefield game is actually the fastest. It's actually impressive just how out of sync with reality it is. The only thing that is objectively faster is the time to kill, which I don't really see as a problem, because it just shifts the game's balance away from gun handling and toward positioning, which in a game that's as map-centric in its gameplay as Battlefield is actually a good thing. It's not an arena shooter, it's Battlefield. And that Battlefield, the map you're playing on, should be an important part of the moment-to-moment combat, and how you move through it should also be an important part of the moment-to-moment combat. Rush being 12v12 is not an issue. Rush was quite literally designed to be played 12v12. Higher player counts turn it into a clusterfuck. The problems with Rush come down to the fact it is being slapped onto conquest maps, when it really needs its own dedicated maps that cater specifically to it. Right? Long canyon maps, basically. Snake-like, with each sector arranged one after the other. This kind of design is terrible for Conquest, so when the game is designed with Conquest as a priority, as it is in Battlefield 6, none of the maps will fit Rush. Instead, it just gets chopped into arbitrary bits that are used as Rush sectors, and that doesn't lead to good map flow. To follow on my point about Rush, this is particularly true for Breakthrough as well. The maps are designed for Conquest, they're not designed for Breakthrough. Conquest maps are easier to adapt for Breakthrough, sure, but it still requires some tuning. It requires the map to be divided into engaging slices, as in what will be the sectors for Breakthrough. There needs to be a progression of the map from one end to the other, and none of the maps really have that, and over a broader area than Rush, obviously. And Battlefield 6 only really does this to any successful degree on Cairo, and even then, again, there's no real progression from one end to the other. There's nothing special about any of the sectors, because the map isn't made for the mode. The final sector doesn't have you breaching some heavily fortified position, right? It's not the final fort on Monte Grappa. It's literally just a pile of rubble next to the defender's spawn. The more linear street layout helps make it more divisible into breakthrough sectors, but it's still rather anticlimactic. Ironically, Liberation Peak, seemingly by accident, has an excellent final sector around the F flag from Conquest. The problem with that sector is that the defenders spawn directly behind the flag, making it nigh impossible to keep them off it. And unfortunately, the first sector, which uses the Conquest A flag, doesn't work for Breakthrough at all. The exit from the attacker's spawn isn't designed for both teams to be packed into the area because normally there's little serious fighting around that flag on Conquest. The ground is too open and the play space is too narrow for the attackers to maneuver at all. They literally just have to bonsai charge into the cap zone using smokes and hopefully a skilled tanker. Not that this is really going to save them from any decent defending team anyway. Now the second weekend got a new map. Empire State is, again, clearly designed for Conquest, given the map is not linearly arrayed. The first breakthrough sector is just awkwardly shoved into the middle of the street, although I will say this does have the benefit of giving that large boulevard a lot more action than it normally sees in Conquest, and is a welcome break from the constant CQB. The second sector uses the main building complex, which already sees most of the action on Conquest anyway, but there's no real place to put a final sector, so it's just randomly plopped on the back of the main building, and this gives the attackers a huge advantage, making it basically a gimme. However, I don't find the complaints about this map on Conquest to hold any water, really. Because this is an actual, like, rat's nest map, not like a street, alley, plaza focused map like Cairo, or, for point of historical comparison, Grand Bazaar, with far more enterable buildings and a main building complex with an intricate layout. The map absorbs far more players into a smaller area because there's so many more places in the area that they can go. Whereas a more open map would have that same amount of space dedicated to like an open field where only a tank would ever go. It being small in a purely 2D map sense is not a problem because the map is complex enough in 3D space to, as I said, absorb 64 players easily. I will admit I may have been too hasty in saying recoil should be buffed, because there are genuine trade-offs you need to make to minimize recoil in terms of attachments. In fact, as I went into the second weekend, I switched my approach and started downgrading or even ditching my weapon grip entirely if it would let me use bigger magazines. I was really finding having more ammo useful, not just for engaging multiple targets, but especially when you're not playing support. Your ammo capacity is based on mag count, not bullet count, which means you will automatically get to carry more bullets if your weapon has a larger mag attached, which benefits assault especially. I chose to just take a little dose of get good and try to manually wrangle the recoil more so I could get bigger mags, better lasers, because hipfire is great on a lot of weapons in this game, and more importantly, a suppressor, because to a lot of people, if you're not on the minimap, you basically don't exist. Finally, I have seen the reports that EA wants to annualize Battlefield just like Call of Duty. This doesn't surprise me, it shouldn't surprise anybody else either. This is just the first time that a Battlefield game might be successful enough that such a strategy could work going forward, since you have to first convince people that this is a franchise that they want to play all the time and therefore are fine paying for every year. Now, this is supposedly several years off, but again, it will not surprise me if they try. It also won't surprise me if they start shoving in more and more bullshit skins. Remember, they never actually denied they would do that. They very carefully worded their response to that question to give themselves an out. When they said this is a modern game, they weren't talking about it being a game set in the modern day, though they probably want you to think that's what they meant. They were talking about it being a modern game, as in a game that exists now. A time when selling dumb skins for ridiculous prices makes huge piles of money. Make no mistake, EA will sucker people into this game with nostalgia bait and then sell the kids and whales all the dumb cosmetics they want. If the Battle Royale isn't trash, I won't even be surprised if it becomes the main game mode just like in Call of Duty, effectively killing the franchise's identity and thereby my interest in it, something the annual slop releases would only exacerbate. If anything, I want to play Battlefield 6 so bad because unlike 5 and 2042, it actually plays well out of the box for the most part, and if EA goes in the COD direction as they're rumored to, this may be the last good Battlefield game for a very long time, so I want to play the shit out of it before EA inevitably ruins everything again. I am fully prepared for Battlefield 7 to be total slop that I won't be buying, just like I dropped 5 after a week and never bought 2042 in the first place.
Numbers have taken a hit. Left right, enemy attack launched on Bravo. We are moving on objective Alpha. Enemy attack launched on Bravo.
I need a medic!